the result of our study will be the initial step in the process in a long journey of sustainable rubber development in Vietnam. And I know despite many difficulties and obstacles with these commitment from all sides, we can make it in the future. So on behalf of the forestry, I would like to thank VRA and VRI has accompanied with us in this surveys, as well as the Norwegian government and the UK government also support data for today's events. I would like to wish a successful seminar. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. To Sung Phúc, for your remarks. To begin our today's event, I would like to welcome Mr. Võ Hành An, the Deputy Chairman of VRA, to have his report on the overview of the rubber industry. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, representative from agricultural, export, enterprises, members, so in this seminar with the theme of consumption linkage for rubber and smallholder output, I'll have a report. Just an overview of production and consumption of rubber industry. Specifically, due to the time restraint, I give you an overview. Firstly, I'll lead you through about the export turnover of the rubber industry. The export turnover is shown on the screen. And for the natural rubber, it's 2.3 billion US dollar. Rubber wood and rubber products is about 2.3 billion US dollar. So rubber wood and natural rubber is the same, and the natural rubber account for 35% and rubber wood about 31%, and the biggest one is rubber wood products from about 40%. And about the production of natural rubber wood and rubber wood products. And firstly, I will lead you through the natural rubber production. So here we can see the area and productivity of natural rubber and also synthesis rubber from 2015 to 2020. The red line is the area of rubber. So we can see here from 900 hectares, we reduced it until 2020. However, about the productivity, we can see that it increased from 2015 to 2020. So we can see the holder and a small holder, the two specific part of rubber industry in Vietnam is different from other country in the world. The ratio of large scale is about 40% and small holder is about 54%. So we can see the small holder is larger than the large holder, about 18,000 hectares. However, we can see the difference in productivity due to the aging of rubber. So the productivity of smallholder is higher than that of the large holder. And how about export turnover or the import? So we move to the import turnover. Although the Vietnam rubber was 1 million ton per year, however, we have to import the huge amount of rubber from other countries.
In 2019, you see the natural rubber volume export is more than 300 tons, and with the turnover is more than up to $355,000. So this number is served for many purposes. However, we are mainly import rubber for process and for other product export. I think, in my opinion, it's up to 80 to 85%, and the rest is for domestic consumption. Depending on the demand of the processing industry, rubber processing industry. Therefore, the domestic supply in the countries cannot meet the demand. And we can see that in the report we have fully detailed information. And here I just briefly go through some main key figures and points relating to the informations of rubber industries. And you can see that it is official data. And for sure, we also have the numbers of an official imported rubber, natural rubber into Vietnam, because we don't have the clear statistic right now. So as you can see in the chart, we have smallholder is 452,000, and for the large holder is 452,000, and smallholder is 732,000 tons. And moving on to the total export turnover in Vietnam from 2015 to 2020, we see is a very consistent trend in this period. As we can see that in 2015, the turnover is 1.4 million US dollar, and now is 3.1 million US dollar. And you can see that in 2017, 2018, 2019, the amount of the increase is around 200,000 US dollar. However, from 2019 to 2020, we witnessed a huge spike up to $700,000. And you can see that in 2020, we know that we have facing many difficulties, not only for rubber industry, but also for other industry as well. From the January to June, and all the supply and demand chain is all disrupted. And we also have the last two quarter, third quarter and the fourth quarter to save the productions in this year. However, we can still manage to reach the 3,100 million US dollar for Vietnam's rubber industry. And you can see that in the structure of the total export turnover, tires account for more than 45%, in terms of value. And during seconds, we have many components or technical rubber, and then we go to globes and soles. Globe also is very one of the emerging products in this market, especially in 2020. And I think that in this recent years has surpassed that number of insoles in terms of values and numbers. And then I would like to mention about rubber wood and products made from rubber wood. And as I mentioned, we have the value, the export value of wood and its products in 2020 is around 2.36 billion US dollar. And we can see that in 2017, the rubber that wood that we use in productions has increased in its value from 1.4 to 1.9 billion US dollar. And in 2020, you see that the number of rubber wood as a material is just around 435,000 US dollar. Besides, we also imported some input material for both smallholder and farmers, which account for a small amount. And mostly from the productions of the smallholders with the rubber wood after exploitation. So some of the assessments, as you can see, the main actors in the supply chain is the smallholders and SOE. However, in terms of processing, we see that the FDI and the private enterprises plays a very crucial role. Regarding consumption, we see that the rubber processing industry is account for 20% of the number of rubber that is required for industrial productions. So it means that 70 to up to 80% we have to import it, raw material from other countries. And in terms of domestic market, we have a huge demand. And therefore, we still need to import up to 2 billion US dollar value of rubber wood. And beside that, in terms of international market, with lots of agreements, bilaterals and unilateral agreements has been signed recently. So Vietnam is stand as a very high chance to become a world supplier. So we need to know the way we need to capture these opportunities to overcome the difficulties to become one of the biggest suppliers in the world. So from these assessments, we see that what is the trends of development of rubber industry in Vietnam and how is the world? What do we need? So this is one of the way we look at it, especially in this event, is that it's sustainability in the rubber industry, not only in the world, but also in Vietnam. So it is a very trendy right now. And in order to meet these KPI and criteria as the theme and the topic in our today event, one of the solutions that we have to emphasize is the linkage consumptions between smallholders. And in this case, we can expand it into the linkage between smallholders and smallholder and enterprises and between enterprises. As well, we can even link it up to the level of authorities between these all stakeholders. Because in order to develop industry, there are many actors including it. Therefore, we require the direct participations of smallholders with the support from the government, as well as the expanding market that Vietnam government has signed in many bilateral agreements and unilateral agreements with more than than 100 million populations of Vietnamese people. So we standing as a very high chance to make use of this very potential opportunity. So the rest is we need to find a way, solutions to overcome these obstacle to move forward to sustainable development. So now I would like to stop my presentation here, and I will let our expert to elaborate on what we need to do, what we should do in long term. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hoàng An. So if you have any questions, please send it to the organizing committee. So now I'd like to invite Ms. Trần Thị Thúy Hoa to have a report on consumption linkage for a natural rubber from smallholder, current situation and some policy aspect. Due to this time restraint, we only have 5 minutes for the report. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, the chairman of the VRA, today on behalf of the research team, I'll lead you through the report on linkage consumption natural rubber from smallholder, current situation, and some policy aspect. So this is the second report out of 3 reports carried out by the research team. So the report consists of 5 projects, of which the 3 main projects are the current situation of smallholder rubber production, linkage on consumption, and the role of stakeholder, and also the current status and policy aspect in smallholder consumption. So we use many different data sources. Secondary data is extracted from the General Statistics Office, the MARC, the VRA, and also from information from enterprises. So the primary data were collected from face-to-face meetings and interviews conducted from May to July 2020 in 3 provinces of Bình Phước, Kon Tum, and Quảng Trị. The 3 provinces representing 3 different ecological regions with large rubber areas, and also the area with the largest area of smallholder plantation in region. We have interviewed the people committee of district commune organization supporting smallholder farmers such as farmer union, 100 households, and also agents and traders. Regarding the current situation of rubber production in Vietnam, we put in the report like Mr. Ang said before. So I lead you to some main point. The smallholder productivity is higher than the largeholder from 5 years, especially from in 2015, it increased 5% than the largeholder. According to ANRPC, we can see that after 7 consecutive years of leading, Vietnam's rubber productivity in 2019 continued to lead among the member countries, reaching 1,600 kilograms per hectare. So the smallholder reached 1.7 thousand kilogram per hectare. So smallholder productivity of Vietnam it reached the high level in the global market. So here's some information on the 3 survey provinces. In 2019, the smallholder plantation area was larger than in 3 provinces. These figures show that the production of the area of Bình Phước and Quảng Trị is of smallholder is bigger than the largeholder. The productivity, the smallholder is higher than the largeholder in Bình Phước and Quảng Trị. The smallholder account for more than 95% of the province's total output. So in content, the smallholder productivity were not much lower than that of the largeholder and higher than that of the largeholder in Quảng Trị. So in Bình Phước, the number of households and the average area reached 2.8 hectare, and in Kon Tum is 1.6 hectare, and in Quảng Trị is only 1 hectare. So in the 100 survey households, the average area is 2.8 hectare, account for 51% of the total productive land area of the household, with about 16 years of planting experience. So here's some information in the detail I put in the report. So the condition for ensuring the legality for rubber latex and rubber wood for smallholder are quite high. When 92% of the household are granted a certificate that so the low price reduce the benefit. However, up to 78% of households want to maintain the rubber area, and 11% want to expand the area. 89% of households still want to continue producing rubber. And about the processor. The processors in 3 provinces is mainly the private company. However, the survey showed that the factory are very active in sourcing raw material or outsources for neighboring provinces to balance the capacity. After the surveys in 3 provinces, we have an overview of a supply chain of natural rubber in Viet Nam. So the supply chain had 3 main parts: planting and harvesting latex, purchasing latex, processing, refining, and consuming. So we have 3 ways of supplying rubber latex. So middleman or agents directly from the smallholder to processor, directly from the smallholder to processing company. In the linkage of smallholder consumption, we have a characteristic as below. About the operation mode, the association is formed and developed based on the reputation of the management and household the smallholder can choose to sell their product to the trusted company. Regarding the form of transaction is mainly in cash for each shipment or optional. About the prices, it depend on the agent.
In terms of latex quality and weight evaluations, we can through visual inspections or based on the experience of the purchaser. For their support from the agents and the supply of smallholders. For example, in peer support, the processors make dealers alone or issue advance to smallholders, or maybe they provide some material like fertilizer, latex stimulants, and the smallholder repay dealers with latex or cash. Here is some of the pictures in the purchaser locations or agents of the individual smallholders. They have enough equipment to transport in larger quantities or any other machineries to perform the latex quality evaluations. A second is direct linkage between the smallholders and the processor. So normally that the professor will have their factories near the smallholder area, and the same will have the daily transactions for latex and depends on the period in terms of couplums. And for sure, they will sell to those who buy at a higher price or any new incentive for the smallholders. And type of contractions, most of them is no formal contracts. And however, the purchasement is take place in the purchaser locations or in the factories. And they also provide invoice for the smallholders. And for the pricings, they also have the price quote daily. However, some processor, they updated they public their price on websites and with the listed price. In terms of latex quality evaluations, it will be made by the company or the processor. Besides traditional method of purchases, the processor also have the inspection or double check by the results in the lab. Regarding peer support, the processor will provide high-tech trainings and maintenance. Also have the remunerations also increase price with the sustainable source. And for the way backward, the smallholder will commit to be in the longer relationship with the processor. The above slides, you can see that some of the images in the purchaser locations or in the factory of the company. So in the factory, besides prioritizing purchasing the large quantities of latex, a large amount of latex, however, they also collect small amounts of latex from the smallholders. Thirdly, is the linkage between smallholders and companies and processors. So this linkage has some of the characteristic in terms of operation method. It is supported by the authorities, by processors, and the organizations that support the transactions. And when joining, they have to follow the rules of the members or have the initial capital contributions to purchase tools or build warehouse. And groups will have its heads and also is official. In terms of type of transaction, there will be formal contract and agreement signed annually between the groups and the processors, which still have daily transactions and through cash. In terms of pricings, the processor provide price quote daily. If the processor offer a below market order in 2 consecutive days, the group can reserve the right to sell the products to another party. And relating to latex quality evaluations, there will be internal inspections by the groups, and then it will be double checked by the processors so that we can ensure the accuracies in terms of checking. And for peer support, the processor will provide high-tech trainings and equipment and materials. And in favor, the smallholder will ensure the quality of latex delivery on time and the exclusive purchasement to that processor only. This is the image had record the signing ceremony between Gamlo Latex Processing Company with the group of smallholders in this area. Beside the participating of the the holders in the supply chain, we also have the joining of governments, also VRIs and VRA. The role of the authority is have to dissimulate the informations, also to provide the certificates for the smallholders, training, technical instructions, any operation check or control relating to environmental populations, and as well as some kind of public price channel. VRIs is the unit is under the Vietnam Rupa Group. With VRI, they have some of the function, for example, introduce and encourage or introduce new type of latex. And VRI also implement the program for the agricultural encouragements in the highland and also in some of the south central of Vietnam. And thirdly, for VRA, which is the representative of many businesses in the rubber industry. And now we currently have lots of members without have a direct linkage with the smallholders. However, we have some initial step to support for the development of smallholder, such as encourage purchasements from smallholders with a clear and transparent source. VRA also encourage members to link to connect with smallholders, and in the next few presentations, you can have more detail on this information. And VRA also cooperate with different projects and programs to enhance the capacities of the smallholders. Through the studies and surveys between the linkage of smallholders, we can see that there are some quite characteristic of the smallholders. First of all, smallholders plays a very important role in the supply chain in Vietnam, with account more than 51% in terms of areas and account for 60% of volume. And one of the advantage of them is that they have high capacities of latex and advanced technologies. However, due to the impact of the market, it somehow reduced the price of these smallholders. And most of the smallholder reported that they haven't received the right support from any program or event or maybe authorities. So with this kind of status, we suggest or we recommend that we should have some kind of mechanism to support the smallholder to develop rubber in a sustainable way. The assessments on the linkage between smallholders and other stakeholders in the supply chain. First of all, the linkage between smallholders and the processors mainly through agents or purchasers. Agents mainly decide all the price, qualities, and volumes in these transactions. However, some household can freely to choose their own agents. And I think that some of the agents has come up with some solutions for the smallholder, for example, some kind of initial capital contributions or equipment or materials for them to maintain their productions in longer term. And due to a large supply of smallholder, especially from other agents, we need to enhance the information management and control from the authorities to these agents. And the meaning of these rubber development in a sustainable way, first of all, we need to have the mechanism and policies to support the development between households and stakeholders in a transparent way, in a decentralized way. And we also need to keep improving and extending the existing model in Quảng Trị, or forming new linkage model between smallholders and enterprises in Tây Ninh province, which is in line with the international standards. So This is all of my information, and we hope to receive more of your feedback in today to complete and finalize our report. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Trần Thị Thúy Hoa. Continue, would like to invite Mr. Nguyễn Vinh Quang from Forest Trend to have a report from in consumption linkage for rubber wood from smallholder.
First of all, I'd like to thank you for your participations in this event today. So on behalf of the study group, we would like to presenting the third report, especially focusing on the linkage between the household in terms of rubber wood. So in my presentation, I'll mainly focus on three key pillars. So as Dr. Hoa has mentioned, I would like to skip my first overview of the industry. So would like to focusing on the supply chain of the rubber wood. And secondly is the linkage between smallholders and processors. And thirdly is the discussions and some of my recommendation. As you can see that the rubber wood supply chain is quite similar to the natural rubber supply chain, including 5 parts. So the first part is supplying and purchasing, including agents or many processor they can play its role as well. And the third is preliminary processing. Number 4 is refining, and number 4 is consuming. Number 5 is consuming. Number 5 is consuming. And in this supply chain, we also have the participations of management authorities. So in the second and the third step, the processor can be the SOE or the private businesses. From the processing to preliminary processing, refining, and consuming can be happen in just one company. So basically, there are 2 main channels. First is from the smallholders, then to the agents, and then to the processors, the buyers, and refiner. Or we can have a direct channel from the smallholders without agents and then go directly to the processor. And I would like to emphasize that this is the supply chain that just focusing on the rubber wood without mentioning other resources. In the report in 2018, Forest Trend had coordinated with other stakeholder. We have come up with the comprehensive flow chart with the linkage between smallholder to the other stakeholder in the supply chains. Some of the information relating to the first channel, this means the linkage between the smallholder to the agent or to the intermediaries. The operation method, I think, is quite different from latex because for rubber wood, we mainly exploited maybe 10 to 20 years, and then they can move on to the next crop or variety. However, basically, it is a longer period than the latex. It's not like a daily or weekly basis like latex. As we used to have a term, it's mean event-like. So this is based on the time or the period that we are ready and we to sell these wood. And mainly this happen if the small holders want to change their crop or they need to sell these rubber wood for income. And in terms of products, we have to mention about the capacity of the smallholder because they mainly to sell in the standing tree. All the branches and roots are all sold. So most of the transactions is legal binding when there is a large amount of wood. So the average number per contract is now around 150 cubic meter. However, for the small contract or the small amount quantity contract, those are mainly, actually, those are just have a verbal transactions without any formal contract. And for pricings, it will be considered through many processor. For example, we can have the bidding or the auctioning from the locality. They can use that as a reference, and they can also invite many processors to discuss the price. However, in reality, due to the high amount of wood, so most of the smallholders selling wood through this type of model because they think that only the agents can solve these issues and help them to transport or to store these high amount of rubber wood. And for sure that due to some lack of standard in terms of taping latex, it also leads to the reduction in the quality of the wood, and I think that is limitations. And the agents can use this point as a way to put the price down. And when liquidations in use of 15 to 20 a year in a long period like that, and for sure that the price will be not as high as we expected. In terms of peer support, basically there is like no support between agents and smallholders. But barely it's just some simple questions. It's like when you complete for purchasements or the storage, basically like that. And for traceability, basically it doesn't take place normally, except if there is a requirement from the agent. Or for example, the agents, they need some type of certificate or confirmation letter from the authorities. For sure, some smallholder, they will perform that, but this not happens often. And mainly it's happening this way is that the agents, they will buy woods from different from groups of smallholders, and they will actively ask for the confirmation letters from the group with the support from the authority. And for sure that this confirmation letter cannot state exactly the origins of the wood. For the second channel, which I have mentioned, is the direct linkage between the smallholder to the processor. And I would like to mention some of its key feature. First of all, when the smallholder cannot sell to the agents due to the locations or remote area or just a small amount of wood or immature wood, and only there is some cases that the agents only agree to buy wood but not branches or roots. So in terms of operation method, if they're selling just branches and roots, they have to deliver themselves to the purchaser locations, to the processor location. And according to our surveys, among those 10 smallholder have transaction with the processor, only one smallholder have the direct purchasement from the company. And if the transactions in the purchase locations mainly involving branches or roots, most of the transactions are without formal contracts, mainly verbal transactions. Peer-to-peer support will be none. And the traceability, for sure, we don't have any kind of validations letter or confirmation letter. And in terms of selling thinning trees, if you're working with a company, some company will require or will ask for some type of certificate or letter. However, it just happens in a small scale. Because in reality, when we conducting a survey with many company, they are not sure that all of their source have the traceability or some kind of a CO. And here I would like to briefly go through the role of the management authorities. So basically, in these two channels, there will be no support from the management authority. Barely, it's just the transactions between two sides, the smallholders and the company or the processor. And in here, we also see that many forestry management authority or some people's committee will have the role to identify the origins of the wood if necessary or if required. And in the discussions and recommendations, so first of all, we need to see the importance of rubber wood. So you can see that the supply is around 30% per year to the wood processing industry. And this source in terms of legality is quite high. As mentioned by Dr. Hoa, we have up to 92% of the certifications of rights of land owning rights. And for sure that rights will be more reasonable and will be more profitable for the smallholders. And according to the statistic, I think it will be upcoming trends that the source from the smallholder will keep increasing in the future. So you can see that we're just ending one cycle of rubber wood supplies from the end of 1990 to the beginning of 2000. So 20 years has passed. So I think this will be a beginning of a new cycle, even though it's take quite a long time, from 15 to 20 years to provide these type of wood. However, it still plays a very meaningful role. In terms of the relations between households and agents, so one of the key points I want to mention is first, most of all the transaction is through the agents, and they will take the poll in terms of determining the price and the way of transporting. And the agents also plays a very crucial role in supporting or in providing wood for private enterprises or businesses. However, currently agents are now developed in a fragmented way, lack of control from the authorities, and they buy wood from different sources, so it's become mixed with undefined origin. And if they don't have the forestry listing, it is very difficult for traceability in future processing. And currently, the agents are not unprofessionals in terms of data tracking and recording. And you know that most of the agent is take place as a form of families business. So therefore, the professionalism is not as high as we expected. So which lead to a lack of transparencies as well as transferability if we put it in under the new trend, especially along with the international standard. And in terms of legality in rubber wood processing, as I mentioned, it is not clear, except for some cases that I've conducted. Sometimes there will be overlaps between the plantation area of the smallholders. Even though the papers state one way, however, in reality, it would tell a different story. For example, in the document, it stay like one number. However, in reality, it will be a different number. So that would be a gray area in terms of legality. And the second thing is the inconsistency in terms of procedures. and the company using wood with insufficient documents also pose risk in terms of tradings and transactions in the future. And if we have the decisions from the prime minister, it will be comes into effect. So if the governments don't pay attention to the new regulations and policies from the government, it will be a very huge task and obstacle for them to overcome, especially these policy relating to certificates. And in the linkage between the households and businesses, you can see that in terms of forest plantations, we have a very huge potential in building groups of smallholders. And as I mentioned in the Gamlo model, we can see it has a very huge potential to expand and multiply that model with the linkage, direct linkage between the group of smallholder and the enterprises in the longer terms, and we can ensure the high amounts of wood. And then we also have to assure the quality and the legality of wood, and also we need to remove the intermediaries. And also in this context, the requirement for these forest certificate is really high. However, in Vietnam, the plantation areas which has the certificate is quite limited. And the FSC is now considered as a golden certificate to ensure the high gets benefits for the smallholders. And I think that this is the key certificates that all the smallholder need to prioritize in the future. And then the linkage between the household, the smallholders, and the company, especially the processor, and should copy the models from the natural rubber. Specifically here that the company will support in terms of budget and technical issues to smallholders which has the certificates. However, in order to achieve this goal, we need to tackle some of the problems. First of all, we need to ensure the transparencies in supply chains, solving all the issue relating to area overlaps, and also standardize the information system and data recording and tracking. We can make to forming a committee or organizations to have a supervisor on that rather than working individually. So these the recommendations. I would like to add up some that we related to the stakeholder. First of all, it will change the positions of the smallholder. First, not only to improve their benefits, also to raise their voice of the whole smallholders in the higher total area. And secondly, a company who has direct linkage with household can help them to support and to gain or to get the forest certificate. And also we need to enhance or to push the compliance with all the relations relating to legality or transparency of rubber industry. One of the information I would like to share is that the smallholders, when interviewed, they're really interested in the quality of varieties. And for sure, the variety will affect onto the quality of the rubber wood and the latex at the further step in the future. So in this area, the authority plays a very important role to ensure the rights and of the stakeholders who are participating in the supply chains. So that is all of the information I would like to share today. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nguyễn Minh Quang. So we had some report on linkage between smallholder and company in rubber consumption in Quảng Trị, Bình Phước, and Kon Tum in 2020. And here we come to the Q&A section. So we received some questions from representative, both offline and online. So now I'd like to read the questions.
One of the participants mentioned that they haven't mentioned all the agents had by the unidentified wood resource due to many criminal acts. So is there any reporter want to elaborate on this? Thank you for your question. I think that it is one of the issues that we're trying to solve when conducting a survey. And during my survey, through the introductions of departments and the People's Committee, most of the factories or agents that we come and meet and interview, they are mainly chose as high reputation who follow the regulations, or if the agent have not registered the business certificate, they need to ensure a certain level of credibility. For, as I mentioned, in the smallholder, they will have some kind of peer support in terms of transactions or evaluations, quality of the latex. In terms of factories, the agents and the factory also have some kind of sustainable relations so that they can maintain in long term. For those who gather the latex from an unidentified source, first of all, the management authority won't introduce to us so that we can interview them. And secondly, we also receive a lot of feedbacks from companies and from processor. They have mentioned, they have complained that there would be these unfair competitiveness between the reputable agents or with the agents who use tricks. And therefore, in the report, we also have recommendations, which we hope that the management authority, especially in the local authority, who are presenting here today, according to the regulations, all these smallholder, even the individual one, must register this business certificate so that they can be supervised or managed by the authority. However, there is no supervisions on the exact number of these audience of these targets. And even though in some province, they also conduct and carry out some of the surveys, but largely they also make supervisions on environmental pollutions. That's it. But for something of pricing or mixing with the different impurities, latex, most of them there is not being considered and being managed by the agents. Therefore, one of the solutions we have give out in the report, as Mr. Wang has already mentioned, we need to have the existence of agent system who will be the bridge between the smallholders and the company or the processor. And at best, in the traceability requirement, we need to enhance the capacities of the management authority in terms of regulating these agents system. And in many of our reports, there is no or lack of information relating to these issues. And our study team cannot go beyond our capacity. We just try to synthesize information as much as we could. And we also gather the solutions and the recommendations from all the management authorities. So if we want to ensure there will be a transparent and identify a source, we need to have a group or a system of agent system. I would like to add up on that. As Dr. Hua mentioned, during our discussions and interview. We also find out that the agents have various latex sources, including imported or unofficial. So one of the recommendations in term for the agents, which is including the official and unofficial sources, we need to standardize the tracking and the data recording from the agents. And as Dr. Hoa mentioned, in terms of the registrations certificate or license, so that we can ensure and we can supervise all the agents. We can see that these issues can pose a huge potential risk in terms of traceability. Thank you for your answer. The next question is, we have a four small question here. First of all, is the cycle of latex liquidations. 1 hectare of rubber plantations, how much wood can we extract from that? And last but not least, if they want to chop down the rubber tree, is there any procedure they have to follow or not? I think it's a quite long question, so I would like to answer this one by one. The cycle of rubber wood, in, in a technical term, it would be 25 to 35 years. However, now it's just 20 to 25 years. However, for smallholders, they can totally decide maybe even up to 7 or 8 years for liquidations of the rubber wood. And Mr. Wang mentioned, even though it's just a small or immature tree, immature rubber, if the smallholder for any kind of individual purpose, maybe they need more income or they for other purposes, they can totally freely to decide to chop down these rubber tree. The second question relating to the number of rubber wood extractions per hectare. Even though we don't have the official statistic, however, due to some of the report from the companies or from the smallholders, in our report, we just use the average number. So for 1 hectare of plantations of the largest holder farm, it will be 185 cubic meter for hectare. For smallholder, it's just around 158 cubic meter. If we chop them down at the age of 25 to 30 years old. What is the applications of wood in Vietnam? Of sawdust in Vietnam. So besides using wood, the other articles from wood, it can be very highly applicable. We can say that we can make use all the parts of the rubber trees. We can use it for producing furniture or using it in other processing stage of rubber company. And for the procedures, I think it's relating to the legality aspects. I have 2 parts in my answer. First, I already mentioned in my report, if the rubber tree is planted in the project area, which is supported by the government budget, they will need to have a permission for exploitation. For the area that has been planted in the agricultural land, the smallholder can freely to decide on their own. So if we, speaking of traceability, we need to identify either it is a project land or it is agricultural land. And we need to have the validations from the forest protection group. And if we grow it on the agricultural land, we just need to ask the validations from the authorities. The last question. The survey also mentioned some of the requirement in the VND last or any kind of labor protections equipment or not. I think this question is for enterprises, right? As you know that in the regulations, we have some involving, especially for the member or the enterprises that under the group, or some of the labor laws or some of the criteria. So basically, all these member, all the companies of the Vietnam Rubber Group can ensure these labor protections equipments. And if you consider all these individual factory as also a company in our group, I think it's still a weak linkage in our change. And when we're talking about the requirement VNC-LAS, we also have some further study that shows that the small scale factories, they cannot ensure the environmental or labor laws criteria. For these questions, I would like to add up that according to our survey, for the processor, they need to have the registration license, and at least in terms of environmental aspect, have to be controlled and supervised by the Department of Natural Resources. And here specifically is the sewage, and they must be treated in the appropriate way in line with the government regulations. For the agents, they have to perform the CSO. So first of all, for the laborers and the factory workers, they have to ensure and follow all the regulations that ensure the labor rights. Only those fragmented or unregistered factories or agents, for sure. I think these quite limitations. So thank you for your questions as well as the answer from our presenters. We will come back to our meeting in the next 10 minutes, so we have 10-minute break.
Ladies and gentlemen, now we come to the sharing experience from the rubber company. I would like to invite Mr. Trần Nhật Tuân from Linh Anh Company sharing about the linkage model between rubber company and smallholders. Ladies and gentlemen, I will be the representative for Linh Anh Company for sharing about the linkage model between Linh Anh and smallholder in Tân Ninh province. I'm Huỳnh Nhật Tân from the planner for the company. And we are here sharing about the FSC. So I will introduce some basic information about FSC. FSC stands for the Forest Stewardship Council. We create a standard for enterprise individuals when working in environment protection, prevent deforestation, suitable for society benefit. And here are some basic ascertained regulation about FSC. Yeah, also included in the handout in your hand. So what benefit when you apply FSC in Linh Anh models? About first is environment. We can ensure the
area that we are currently managing. Secondly, we need to ensure the social benefit. And this is not only relating to economic aspect, but also the living standards of laborers, also the social insurance, the medical insurance, as well as labor protections during their work. So that is somehow improve the capacities of them and also contribute to the economic improvement of the enterprises. And if the product is labeled as an FSC product, we can see that it somehow is a guarantee that this product is well exploited with identifying origins. Therefore, the price of the products has been named as the FSC product is higher than the normal market price, and it's also improved the economy benefits of the smallholder and company. And it's also somehow increased the reputations of the brand name of the companies. And we have to restructure the system, restructure the company so that we can get this FSC. Therefore, Lingan companies in Vietnam also in the international market is somehow an advancement so that we can gain a stronger foothold in international market. And in reality, when we apply the linkage model with these smallholders, what are the pros and cons? First, for the pros, is in terms of the management activities. So in terms of management activities, we need to follow a standard even higher than the ISO 201 in 2015. And when we apply this standard, we have many difficulties because at first, the rubber company is quite a manual company, right? We are not a standardized company with all the system. However, when we joining the global supply chain or to get the FSC certificate, we need to follow their procedure. Therefore, in terms of management, even though it's much more difficult, however, I think it's more effective in terms of recording and tracking information. And secondly, in terms of the quality, if we follow it strictly, we know that which area, which farm of Mr. A, Mr. B, who can produce a high quality or poor quality, and we can categorize these farmers and with easier listing or assessment system. And next, for the producer, the first two is for the producer and now is for the smallholders, because you know that traditionally each smallholder will have their own ways of organizing an operation. However, when applying this procedure, they have feedback that it's easier for them to record the data, the plantation areas, because they have the standardized for their daily tracking, not only for the quality, for the amount of rubber, but also for the amount of work of their workers or their farmers. And last but not least is the improvement in terms of capacity or productivity. So specifically, I mentioned here is the work rate of the labor of the workforce, because when they feel that they are respected and they ensure all the basic needs, I think that they somehow will increase their responsibility for their role and for the company as well. So you can see some of the picture. We have we need to have this medical toolkit box, and we have to have the recycle bin, so that we can separating waste as source. So through these small activities, it somehow contribute to improving the professionalisms of smallholders and the individual companies. And along with the pros, we also have to mention the cons. And you know that Traditionally, we are more like a family-like business. We just focus on day-to-day basic. We not aware of the long-term plan that the AFC have give us. And as I mentioned, each family, each household, they have their own way of recording. One of them maybe use Excel, they use the bookkeepers, or therefore the way that we can align this recording and system is much takes a lot of time than we thought. And third, we're lack of labor force and tools. And you know that the manager mainly is the member of a family, and they don't have the skill, the management skill or the accounting skill. So I think this is quite a huge issue for us in the first few days. And last but not least is the management cost, and the production cost is also increased much higher than before. You know that we have to import machinery, equipment, the labor protections, medical insurance, social insurance, and so on. So how can we overcome all of that difficulties? And in Lingan, we have come up with some of the solutions. First of all, we will find the smallholder they have, which are open-minded. It means that this smallholder they want to go further than just in the area. They want to go global, and we can help them to train and to support. And secondly, we will recruit who have knowledge and expertise in terms of advocacy to go directly into each farm, each area, so that they can educate, they can instruct the people and explain to them why they need to join into the advocacy supply chain and certification. And thirdly, we will support personnel and to establish internal information system. As I mentioned, each house have their own ways of organizing their data. So now we will have our own people to record by ourselves in the first few weeks and to show them the way to do it, and then they can do it on their own. Number four is we're gonna support the initial capital. For example, these equipment investments capital or assessments capital or assessment fee, assessment cost for any kinds of feasibility survey. And number five, we will underwrite all the outputs. And for sure, the price will be corresponding to the quality of the latex. And if we say that if they provide us long-term and high quality latex, and for sure they can earn much higher price than the market price. If you follow my report since December last year, now is the different points that I just added up to my presentations. So in the first stage, Lingan company has get the FSC certificate, and now we can produce the latex FSC 100%. You can see our code is here. You can go to fsc.org and you just type in Lingan, or you can type in the FSC code. It will have all of the information in relation to my certificate with the CO, with the validated day and the effective days. And to the second stage, I have to complete the FSC FM because FSC COC is mainly take place in the factory. So it means that now a Lingan factory has enough capacities and expertise to perform FSC product. And now we need to go further. It means that we make sure that all of our sources to have the FSC FM. So in March 2021, we already come up with a plan for FSC FM assessment. And basically in this stage, we mainly cooperate, coordinate, and working with the Vietnamese partner to come up with the surveys and the data. And in the upcoming month, especially in May this year, we'll have internal assessments and have internal feedback to fixing or to solving these issues so that we can meet the requirement, the FSC FM. And up until July, August, and September, hopefully, if everything goes smoothly, we can get the FSC FM, and in October, we will officially can sell the LaTeX FSC 100%. So that is all of my presentations about my journey to get the FSC certificates. So if you have any question, please connect me through this information in the slide. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Huỳnh Nhật Tân. I would like to invite Mr. Mai Chính Tuấn from Cam Lộ Companies for sharing about linkage model of smallholder group. Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, and delegate, on behalf of the leader of the factory, would you good health and great success. And about the linkage consumption of smallholder rubber products, I'll show you some information. So the total products about 10 tons per year. So it can be said that the price of the rubber on the market has fluctuated. Recently, the price had a little bit slowed down. Therefore, some farmers, some smallholder, they cut down the rubber tree. And for us, the main material is from the smallholder. We and the agencies, the government will support the smallholder to implement the linkage model between the smallholder and the company to sell the material for our factory. So the linkage issues with the enterprises to find the output for the smallholder, receive new ideas in which the linkage for consumption rubber latex can help us to connect between the producing and processing procedure. So this model will established in the cooperative in latex in rubber industry. We have implemented for 2 years with 10 groups. We have 5 groups in our area. So this is quite a new model in which the productivity, the smallholder can reach out about 3,000 tons per year. According to our regulation, each member of the group have to blend and sell the material according to the regulation of the group. Have sell directly to the factory and ensure the quality and also the quantity of the latex. Also, they have we sign a contract with the smallholder. However, specifically, the smallholder also receive the benefit and support, and also the transfer vehicle from the factories. So that to ensure the material source and to ensure the income for the smallholder. It can be said that the establishment of the models between the smallholder and the factory, there is a new trend that opened a new door for a smallholder to link with the enterprise for rubber consumption in the area. During the early stage, we met many advantages. However, we also receive advantages when established. The smallholder group will receive priority from the factory about the price. They will sell their products with the higher price. Meanwhile, the price of the market is slow down. So, we will watch a video clip about our models.
Trong thời kỳ cao su thay lá, nhà máy chế biến mủ cao su Cam Lộ tập trung duy tu, bảo dưỡng, sửa chữa máy.
Cam Lo factory is focusing on fixing and repairing machineries and finding new market. And from the beginning of 2018, we're starting to purchasing again. Even though the income is quite low, however, we still maintain the living standard for the farmers and people here. And we also set out plans in 2018 that have more than 3,500 latex, dry latex. And we also encourage the labor to improve the capacities and efficiencies in production. At the beginning of this year, our factory also have the purchasement plan for the smallholders. We have coordinate with the Mekong Development Institute to disseminate and encourage farmers to establish a cooperative to gather dry latex. And through that, our factory also sends personnel to instruct and support farmers for technical issues, as well as trained the tapping technique for them. During that period, we also direct all the departments in the factory that they can help to facilitate the procedures for these farmers. With the support of the Cam Lo processing company for the smallholders who are located near the company that will transport it themselves. For the further smallholder, they will establish groups of smallholder, and then they will hire a truck to transport these dry latex into the purchaser locations. This brings benefits for both sides. So the smallholder can earn the whole benefits without go through any intermediaries. And for the processor, they can find a long-term with high-quality latex. Because the price is quite low compared to other years. However, that is the average price in the market. And for us, the smallholders, when we transfer our products to the processor, they give us many incentive because they know that these are very important factors to provide input material. And secondly, for Cam Lo processing company, there is some commune that they have established groups of smallholder from 20 to 30 smallholders. So that is easier for management and transportation and gathering dry latex. So even though the price is relatively low, however, we very understand the context, so we need to make sure the opportunities to working with such enterprises. Recently, when it comes to the tapping periods, they're quite afraid of the domestic demand because they're mainly being pressurized the price. However, for this year crop, with the support, especially in terms of technical from the Gamblo company, they can ensure, and the company also underwrite the consumptions from the smallholders output.
Thank you, Mr. Mai Chi Tuấn. Before we continue to the other break, I would like to invite Mr. Ngô Chính Nghĩa for sharing his opinion.
Distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, first of all, I would like to thank VRA for grazing such an opportunity to participating in a very important event like today. Ladies and gentlemen, through this morning, we have heard lots of total is 5 presentations in which have many crucial informations that the working group of the VRA and the study team cooperated with the forest trends that bring us many helpful and insightful informations for many participants here today, and as well as some of the experience sharing report in terms of rubber productions in line with the sustainable development trends. We highly appreciated this report, and somehow for me, myself, and for other management authority to have a broader and clearer picture for the status of the smallholders rubber production. And through this event, we'd like to affirm that the Vietnamese policies for the rubber industry is that we only have one way, that is the sustainability to go forward, and in which for the rubber industry, we think that the smallholders rubber accounts are very high proportions in the structure, with more than 265,000 farmers and smallholders, and account for more than 51% of the volume. And during the meantime, many companies has moving forward to this path. However, due to the large plantation area belongs to the smallholder, the fact that we need to organize production is, I think, is very a challenging mission in this context with this requirement. So what is the way for us? What are the ways for us to connect to working with the smallholders? So I would like to share some of my opinions so that you can utter your thoughts lately. And from us, I think VRA, Viet Nam Rubber Association, is one of the leading associations in organizing the productions. And I hope that with the support from our investor and our sponsor, we can come up with new solutions and new ways to connect, to strengthen the linkage between the smallholder and enterprises. And I think this have a very huge meaning, not only to ensure the sustainability, but we also share the benefits between the smallholders and the families. And I think that is the only way we can guarantee that it is a sustainable linkage. And for the wood industry, as we perceive, with the volume of rubber wood has been exploited in the replanting area of the smallholders, also accounting for large proportions, and for the wood industry only, I think that the sustainable management must come from the enterprise that have the legal products And what does the word legal here mean? It means must obey or following the regulations of the governments and other international standards as well. And in the upcoming time, we will have the circular on categorizing business. And if it is coming to effect, then we have to ensure that we have to follow the rule, and which is, I think that it will be coming into effect at the end of October this year. And in that document, we also have many other materials relating to the area of rare wood sources and so on. And the circular on categorizing businesses also help our businesses to improve their capacities and to ensure the traceability of their products. How can we ensure the legality in when sourcing from the smallholder? I think this is one of the issues that we need to have further discussions today. And furthermore, in terms of sustainable management, first of all, we will have the commitment from the enterprises and from the government in the forestry industry. We have the forest sustainable management program, and from Mr. Wang, he has mentioned the latex that has been mentioned has been get the VFSC and coordinate through the BFC. So to speak, so the government already start the first step in facilitating FSC for a sustainable management program, and through which we also establish a system. And I think this additional choice for smallholders so that they can consider to find a suitable certificate and assure that the Vietnamese commitment, first of all, is that is the legal wood resource, and we ensure that we implementing all the sustainable practices in terms of wood and forage management. So through this information, through this event, I would like to share some above informations, and I hope that we will have a further discussions for the rest of the time today. And I hope that in the upcoming time, we have more and more models, linkage model from our smallholders and our enterprises. And now I think that we will hear Scansia Pacific have presentations on the linkage model of the smallholder groups. And I hope that in the future we will have more and more model like this in our rubber supply chain. Once again, thank you for participating in our event, and I wish you have a great health and success.
Thank you for sharing from the representative. I would like to invite Mr. Nam to sharing about the linkage model of smallholder groups and enterprises in sustainable coffee consumption in Lâm Đồng province.
Sức sống không nảy nở, những hạt cà phê Arabica ngọt dịu ra đời trên những ngọn đồi đầy nắng gió, vươn lên từ tinh hoa trong lành của đất trời, góp phần vào màu xanh.
So this video clip shows coffee productions in the highland of Vietnam.
Không chỉ hạt cà phê, bằng sự kết hợp tinh tế giữa đôi tay, khối óc con người và thiên nhiên nơi đây đã tạo ra rất nhiều sản vật đặc sắc. Những hình thức du lịch mới,
The different types of
nơi truyền thống và hiện đại giao thoa. Từ đỉnh Lang Biang chào đón thế giới.
Mr. Bùi Tiến Nghĩa. Ladies and gentlemen, and so today it's my great pleasure to be here for sharing about our project. In such a wrapper seminar, we share some information about our project on coffee and enhance the quality of forest, which means we combine coffee and forest protection. We established in 1965 in Poland. We work on 25 countries. In Indonesia, we also have project on sustainable rubber development. And our main point is agricultural, renewable energy, clean water, and sanitation. And also a project on Lang Biang area, as we watched on the video, that reduce the waste and reduce the deforestation. So our mission is bring happiness for the farmer and bring happiness for the forest. The farmer happy, harmonized with the happy forest. So the Deputy Prime Minister have visited our project on producing coffee in Lạc Dương. So our project include 4 stakeholders, including public, private enterprise, producer. First, on the overview, we have to know how to develop an area sustainably. And second, we have the including of the enterprises, of the private enterprises, to support, to create a sustainable coffee. And finally, is the linkage between the enterprise and producer, and also the smallholder. And also we develop, we sharing experience, knowledge. And here we can see the map about the Lạc Dương district. So Đà Lạt and Nha Trang have the connection through Lạc Dương area. So our design have analyzed the forest. So we see that the industrial activity have affected forest a lot. So we focus on linkage, the smallholder on hotspot that may be affect the forest sources. And this smallholder was uptaken by our enterprise. We invite these enterprises to connect with the smallholder beyond district and commune. And about the main tree beside the coffee that will link with famous company. We also have other products like rose artichokes that will also link to other company that are also, so we can sign a contract to ensure the output for the smallholder. We also have the certificate by a Rainforest Alliance for a cooperative to reach the certificate for sustainably coffee producing. We cooperate with 25 cooperative to create the sustainable model to raise this organization, this group, to a new height. And for the rubber sustainably development, our Indonesia partner have shared us some information about rubber industry. So smallholder account for 49% in Vietnam. However, in Indonesia is 80%. And about the productivity, the Vietnam is 1.5% compared to Indonesia. So we have huge potential on rubber reducing. In Vietnam, the enterprise need huge material and also to create the high quality product. In SNV, we have the method to access to the enterprise, which means that no one be left behind. We focus on the smallholder to enhance the linkage in the supply chain that have the about the support for smallholder. We provide training course like blending, growing, producing, processing rubber, and we put the document on the internet so that the farmer can get access to this document easily. So here's some model that we have that have support from SNV and our partner like Kirana in Indonesia that provide support for the smallholder so that the smallholder can combine the knowledge that they learn from the training course into practice and draw attention from other smallholder to join our working group. We have to share the benefit, to balance the benefit between the smallholder so that we can receive the source of coffee more sustainably. So now I would like to invite Miss Cham, a farmer in Lake U City, to share about the linkage between smallholder and enterprise.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Lindang Kacham from Lake U District in Lâm Đồng Province, and now is the owner of Human Lang. I know it's a very difficult name to pronounce. Locally, its meaning is the Menang Hill, where we grow coffee for a long time. So today, coming to our event, will be the representative of both the farmers as well as the owners of Chumanang to have a few thoughts on what SNV have done and for us in the future. Currently, the Red Coffee project of SNVs has many linkage model between enterprises and smallholders to purchase high quality coffee. And in order to have high quality coffee, SNV has organized trainings programs to improve the gathering and processing technique. Because previously, the farmers will collect or will gather coffees depends on its color and depends on their own sense. However, when SNVs comes into our area and have time to talk and to train with us, we have changed our procedures from the early harvesting to ensure that we can harvest it at the right moment, at the right time with the high quality. And for the people living like you in Lâm Đồng province, what they hope is that the price must be stable so that they can have a more consistent way of life. And to ensure such a consistent price and high quality coffee, SNV also organize many technical training days, also facilitate farmers with equipments, machineries that is necessary for the processings. For example, is the moisture metering or the sweetness metering, whatever it takes to harvest and to produce the highest quality of coffee. And currently, the farmers in Lake Yung district has established some cooperative, and these cooperatives will work closely together to produce different types of coffees, and not only this cooperative, also co-working group. SNVs also support us, as you can see, these fabric, apparel, or husbandry, or wine making, and also some type of herbal productions, herbal medicine production as well. And we have to make use all the materials from the forest to ensure that it is 100% natural product. And also other types of products as well. I do believe that the work that SNV has been doing is very effective, and they're not stopped at giving budget or supplying budget, but they also goes hands in hand with us to go to each house, each farmers, each smallholders, and even each cooperative, and show us the way to do and to perform it aligned with the international practices, and also want us to find the output, also the company who purchase our products. And in the upcoming time, SNV also have more plans for it in Lâm Đồng province. And now we are currently working on the traceability of coffee in Dasa commune. So what have we done? We have to record it, all the steps from harvesting, processing. So by following the SNV's aligned procedure, many companies and many brands, they also help us to promote the images of coffee in Đà Lạt commune. And I know for sure that the farmers won't pay much attention to promote the brand, to raising the awareness of the people about their products. However, SNV somehow help us to go further and to make it more professional in our operations. So thank you. Thì cái gì? Mình take note câu hỏi nha.
Yeah.
Dạ quên.
Thank you for your sharing. So we hear some sharing on report and also some information on linkage model. So now we'll move to the Q&A session to work the sustainable model in the near future. So to start off the Q&A session, we would like to invite the representative from the research group. We would like to invite Mr. Nguyễn Vinh Quang and Ms. Trần Thị Thiên Hoa. From the latex group, I would like to invite Mr. Mai Chính Tuấn. From Cam Lộ Factory, representative from Department of Agriculture, I would like to invite Mr. Trần Minh Tuấn from Quảng Trị Province. I would like to invite Mr. Võ Hoàng An from VRA. And from the RIV, I would like to invite Mr. Đặng Quốc Thông, the director. I would like to invite all the representatives to come to the stage for the Q&A section. Thank you.
While waiting for our presenter and panelists to remain seated, we also have Mr. Nguyen Hiệp come from the BIFA, and we hope to hear some of your thoughts relating to wood industry on how they connect and how they work with the smallholders in their area. So first of all, ladies and gentlemen, today event with the theme is the consumption linkage from the smallholders. And you know that in the rubber industry, it's not about latex only, but also rubber wood as well. We can see that the rubber tree has a very special feature. Normally, the trees, they only have one value only. For example, for the coffee tree, we will have the value of the coffee beans. For the cashew, we will have the cashew nuts. For wood, we will talk of the jam tree. Or pine tree, we were just focusing on their wood. However, for the rubber tree, we can exploit two values at a time, latex and rubber wood. And these things also brings a huge economic value for the people, and it becomes two separated industry. First is the rubber processing industry, and secondly is the rubber wood processing industry. And especially for the rubber wood in Vietnam market, I'm one of the businesses who working in the wood processing industry. Rubber wood has now become a main export material of Vietnam. For example, in 2020, our export turnover is more than 13 billion US dollar, which including rubber wood and jam wood, and both of them accounting for more than 80%. So you can see that the demanding for rubber wood is very high. Therefore, we need to find a way to develop rubber wood processing industry to become a high-value economic industry and bring more and more value in the future, as well as make it into a natural demand from the market. And for us, we always hope that we can create and we can link this type of sources to the rubber wood processing industry. And as I mentioned, with the increasing demands in the market, and the government has set out that in 2035, we will have the export turnover up to 20 billion US dollar. And up to 2020, the rubber wood processing industry is ranked second in the world. This means that we only after China in terms of rubber wood exporting and hold the first positions in Southeast Asia and the second ranks in Asia. So we have a very huge potential to develop, to push further for the industry. So how can we link this source of rubber wood to the processing industry and make it become an inevitable demand for the world as well for the domestic market? And there is one thing that I keep wondering for a long time. When we importing woods from other countries, it is very easy for us to do so because they have a clear standard. For example, type 1 in the price of type 2 and type 3, they're all stated clearly in their standard. However, when we purchase rubber wood in the country, and especially in terms of categorizations, we have no such a clear standard. Therefore, I think that the regulations and the establishments of the mechanism or the standards for this type of wood is very necessary. And I think it's a fundamental and a foundation to go further, to go global. And if we want to export these type of wood to international market, and we cannot follow in the same route, we can work with each other in our country by doing that way. But if we want to export to foreign country, we cannot use this traditional way to approach. Hence, in today's event, what I want to suggest is that how we can have a better connections between the rubber wood productions area to the processor. And I believe that we need to have a standardized system and criteria for the rubber wood. And from then, it will be easier to circulate this type of wood in the market. And when we can achieve that goal, and we will be improved, and for sure we will develop further. Thank you, Mr. Ding Wing Hip, for your sharings. First of all, we'd like to share all of our panelists who are joining here, who has been sharing a lot of insightful information in our today event. Before we go into the discussions sessions, I think Mr. Wang will have something to say to us. I think that from my point of view, I want to emphasize the perspective of the VRIs, especially to the developments of smallholders. With the current situation, current status, there are more than 80% of plantation area, just around from 1 to 1.5 hectare. Plus, the knowledge and the capacity, the negotiating the skills and the techniques to ensure the high quality end product, as well as meeting all the standard and international regulation is quite limited. Therefore, from my point of view, I would like to hope there will be various supports from different sides in the supply chain that we are moving forward to, which is the linkage between the smallholders and the business and authorities. And based on our experience, we're working in some commune. We also already have some existing linkage model between smallholders and enterprises. And I think that it is a quite successful model and also give us more confidence in multiplying this model to ensure both the economic value and also the technical problem that the farmer may encounter during their farming. And for the enterprises, who participating in the linkage, they can also have a higher amount of supply and also reduce the management costs or transportation costs through the intermediaries or the middleman. And through these positive results, I hope that we somehow can apply this into the model of the linkage model between the smallholders and the businesses in the rubber industry. Or as we so-called that, we ensure a clean rubber and high standard rubber material for the productions and for exporting to the other markets. And also, as a member of the study team, I would like to ask Dr. Trần Thị Thúy Hoa, you have any assessments on the current status of this linkage or any sustainable development way to overcome the difficulties? And I think that during my survey, we try to capture and record lots of information. And when we talk with the smallholders, we realize that in terms of technique, the smallholder has more advantages than the other country. First of all, is that we have the good variety, so it is very weather resistant. Therefore, the amount of latex and wood is very high. In terms of legality, I see a feature that I see a point that many countries are having trouble right now is that we are now certifying the land using right. And I think this is the prerequisite to ensure the legality for the smallholders. And the provinces keep improving and maintaining this rate. So therefore, in terms of legality, to improve, to have land using right of the owner, I think we can ensure this part. Another issues that I have to mention is the traceability. And as Coffee Sai has shared with us about the recording system, I think that is one of the experience that the rubber industry need to learn. And in the upcoming time, we need to improve or enhance the capacity in terms of tracking record so that we can have a clear and transparent traceability. Thank you, Dr. Trần Thị Thúy Hoa. And in today's event, we also heard the Camlo presentations about its experience. So I have one question for Camlo community. Why did you decide to work closely with the smallholder? And are there any difficulties? And in the future, whether or not you will expand this type of linkages? Rè quá. So the reasons that we decided to apply this model with the smallholders, as we stated, because the price of rubber is inconsistent and keep fluctuating and makes smallholders somehow worry about their living standard, their livelihood. Therefore, through which some of the smallholder had chopped down the rubber tree. However, our company mainly purchase from the smallholders. We don't have any specific rubber farm from our own. Therefore, we have suggested to the authorities that we will cooperate to strengthen the linkage between the smallholder and the enterprises with the public price at the purchaser location. Normally, the deviation is 1 to 2 millions per ton. And when organizing, we also have some advantages as well. First of all, is the leaderships of the companies and the authorities have joined hands, work closely together. I think that is the first pros that we have in this linkage. Secondly, the requirement to join the group, they must have the tapping area. And when participating in the groups, all the members of the group are fully supported in terms of technical during 2 months of training or some kind of chemical, as well as a rain shelter area for a rubber tree. And I think that is some of the example that we can mention, and we have already helped the people here. And speaking of difficulties, I think that is limitless, because in order to sell latex, it is very difficult for them to ensure the working capital. They have to borrow monies from us, and it will be easier for them to work their way around the life and moving on with the existing operating system. And when establishing, I think there's around 25 groups at first. However, we are now have just 10 existing group. So when we first established the group, some of the members, they cannot follow with the requirement, because for sure the agents, they will increase their price higher than what we offer. And for sure the smallholder, they will see that where comes the better price, they will come to that place and sell to the buyers. And then we keep expanding in all the Chiu Phong commune. We also established 2 more groups. And now, basically all groups are working stably. And when the rubber price fluctuating, the smallholder, they don't know where to get the right information, because mainly they get the information from the agents or the collectors. For example, if the price of the rubber increased, they won't inform the smallholder. However, in the other way, they will inform the smallholder so that they can buy at a better price. So I think that with such linkage between smallholder and enterprises, smallholder somehow they can get better information, sort of information from us with public information on our websites and during our personnel who keep updating the information about the price. And we are planning to extending this model in the area that have plantation area or tapping area. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mai Chim Tuấn.
Thank you for your comment. And now I think that Mr. Trần Quang Tuấn will share his thoughts about these issues or these difficulties that we have been discussing. Are there any pros and cons when participating in the groups of smallholder, in the linkage between smallholder and enterprises? Could you please share with us? Ladies and gentlemen, it's an honor for me to participating in today's event. First of all, I'm the head of the Cam Lo rubber group of smallholder. I have to say is that the farmers like us, rubber is a main product and a main crop for economic value. And here, I would like to recommend that the VRA needs to find a way to increase the rubber plantations area for the smallholders. Regarding groups, working group, before establishing this group, I have to say that I have encountered many difficulties. First is about the price. Second is about the transactions. But after we have some existing groups, I think that we can gain a lot of advantages. The first one is latex can be sold directly to the processor without going through any intermediaries, so that we can earn entire profits from that. And secondly, Cam Lo processing companies keep updating the price for us. And this is better than before when the agents have all the informations about the price. Another pros is I think that VRA and the enterprises should establish more groups of smallholders, because if we keep let the agents play their game, it will be affecting the income of the farmers. So some of my recommendations. First is the capital, the initial capital to purchasing equipment, building warehouse. I hope that the VRA will have support for this type of initial capital. Relating to price, I hope that the VRA will stabilize the rubber price for the smallholders, so that we can ensure our livelihood. And so that is all of my suggestion and recommendation for our panelists here today. So thank you for your sharings relating to all the difficulties of the farmers, smallholder. So besides the proactive participations of the smallholders, as we can see in the Cam Lo project, the role of the management authority also very important. And in here we have Mr. Trần Minh Tuấn. We have the deputy director of the Plant and Crop Protections Department. So the question here for you is, what is the role of the management agencies for this linkage model, and do we have any policies to support this model or not? Sorry, due to the audio signal, so the interpreter cannot hear the speaker well. You can you can see that the plantation area of smallholder is more than 14,000 hectares, accounting for 70% of the total area. So you can see that the smallholders plantation areas account very high proportions. And for the upcoming years, we will support the smallholder to improve their farming. And speaking of policies and some incentive, first of all, speaking of the capital, for the smallholders, we will have the preferential interest rate, which is the 50% of the interest rate for the first 2 years, with the rate of 20 million Viet Nam dong per hectare. And we also compensate the interest rate with 100% of that rate. And for each enterprise, they can have up to 1 billion dong. And besides, we also have many initiatives, for example, like the GIS, for the specialty programs in annual inspections program or promotion program for the products here. So we try to organize 5 events each year. And for the smallholders, we have some specific policies. First of all, is to organize the training programs in terms of take caring, harvesting and tapping rubber tree, and orienting or introducing new variety to increase the sustainability of the farm. And last but not least is to raise the awareness of the smallholder in terms of price and the information. And last but not least is transform those old farm into the high value crops. And we also recommend to establish groups as we've seen in these PowerPoint was from the video clips, especially for the pepper and the coffee. And we have such cooperative, and I think this is a very effective way for organizing, so we will keep multiplying that model in the future. Thank you, Mr. Minh Tuấn, for your sharing about the role of the management agencies in terms of supporting smallholders and the linkage between smallholders and enterprises. Besides management authorities, the VRIs also plays a crucial part. And here we have Mr. Đặng Quốc Thông, is the director of the VRI. So could you please share with us the role of the VRIs, especially in terms of technique, so that the smallholder can improve their productivity in the future? Thank you, VRA, has for organizing such an event so that we can share any new advanced technology to the smallholders. So through your question, I would like to answer that first. The role is we will be the leading purchaser, leading in terms of advanced technologies. And the VRIs have the functions to research and apply those technologies relating to a variety advancements or technique, tapping technique, so that we can improve the rubber industry in Vietnam. And secondly, we will also the contact point to connect the advanced technologies and variety exchange between countries. And secondly, the role of us for the smallholder in terms of supporting development. For us, we will play a politic role, which means that we will transfer all the advanced technology to the smallholder so that they can apply in a sustainable way. And secondly, we will be a bridge between the small holders in Vietnam and as well as the international smallholder. Some of us have mentioned that we should establish the groups of smallholders, and due to that reasons, we will connect smallholder not only in Vietnam but to our counterparts in the world. For example, we have implemented the policies to get the FSC certificate for the smallholder through the groups of smallholder, and the government also subsidize all the cost and fee related. And next, I think that through the exchanging informations with the international smallholder, we are working close with the GPSNR. If you want to participating in, you will register to participate in the forum. It is quite a normal procedure and easy to apply. And in my opinion, I think that we need to change our ways, our practices from monoculture to polyculture. So I think this is a very sustainable way to go in the future under the volatility of climate change and with the fluctuating rubber price. If we can change this monoculture into polyculture, we can mitigate the risk of we can mitigate the impact of the climate change, and we also diversifies our income. When the rubber price went down, we can gain economic values from other products, and from then we can ensure our operations and our income through different types of products. And I think that is the way forward, because from my opinions, many rubber producing countries in the world, they are already changing. And I think we need to have a right perspective so that we can go global and we can have a sustainable development way. If you have any, if you want to participate into the organization, that you can connect with the international smallholders, and also to receive the FSC's certificates, you can record, you can note down my phone number. Thank you, Mr. Dan Quốc Thông, for your sharings through the perspective of VRI. Another question for the VRA, which is the representative for all the business in the industry. The smallholders plays a very important, no, for sure. So do you have any strategy or plan to connect these smallholder with the members of the VRA or not? So Mr. Bảo Hàng An, please elaborate on that. In the sustainable developing trend of rubber industry, Vietnam rubber industry have its own pros and cons. And in today's seminar, we can see clearly that the consumption linkage from smallholders is one of the factor, one of the conditions, important ones, to develop in a sustainable way, and at least with traceability from sourcing to processing stage. And I think this is a very important step. However, the issue here is that Vietnam rubber industry also have its disadvantages as well. You can see the structure, especially the proportions between the smallholder and the large holder, is very high. The smallholder just account for 51%. However, the large holder account for 49%. So I think that is an advantage. So if the smallholders in other countries in the neighboring area, as you mentioned, it can account for 80% of the total structure of the producers in the industry. And then we also have to mention some of the disadvantages. As Dr. Hoa has mentioned, the members of VRA, they are now doesn't have any direct linkage to the smallholder. And on the other side, the smallholder, they cannot get access to the information not only in Vietnam, but also in the world as well. And in my opinion, speaking of sustainability, with the three important pillar, the smallholder they are now focusing on the economic effectiveness, which means they need to ensure highest revenues and income as possible. And I've already mentioned with the lack of information, so that is very difficult for them to contact or to meet the businesses so that they can participate in building the stronger and more fortified linkage between the smallholder and the businesses. So first of all, the direct factor who's the direct stakeholder in the supply chain must participate in this linkage. Or I can say that there is no single unit can perform it all. For example, the company, if they want to get the sustainable certificate, for sure they need to have the sustainable sourcing. So as I mentioned, all the stakeholders in the supply chain must connect it closely and cooperate it closely. And at least we need to have the linkage between the smallholders and these businesses and between themselves. And in the linkage between the smallholder and the enterprises, as the introduction from Linh Anh, they will support the farmers relating to the informations, regulations, policy, and the cost and the fee.
Second, in the supply chain, we have the enterprise and also the smallholder. We have to receive the support from the government, from the commune. We have to connect the smallholder, the government, the enterprise. We have to join hands together to create a sustainable rubber supply chain that meet the global standard, and also the standard that was formed by our government or our minister. We have to support the smallholder to connect them, get them to create a chain for them to get access to information. The government and the agency must create a support policy, support the finance support, so that the smallholder can earn the income. If you want to sustainable development, you have to ensure the income of the smallholder first. So we can see the model of Cam Lộ factory is quite a good model to connect the smallholder into a smallholder group, and that group will link with the enterprise. So we have the two way to go. First, encourage the smallholder to link together, create a smallholder group, like ABS in India. they link to each other. That we have to base on the common benefit. And the second, if the government agency can support the smallholder to link with the enterprise, that the government have to draw extension from the smallholder to show in the working group to provide them with information to ensure them the income for a sustainable rubber industry. Thank you.
Thank you for Mr. Võ Hang sharing. So we have just listened sharings from our reporters, as well as all the stakeholders participating in the supply chains. So now I will leave the questions to the floor, whether you have any questions for any of our panelists here. So among the questions been raised about how can we preventing or can we mitigating the price fluctuation, I already mentioned that the role of the VRA, as you can see, VRA doesn't have any functions or any authority to stabilize the price. And according to the report, because we are mainly exported rubber to the world, so our price highly depends on the international market. Therefore, it is a very difficult things to do, and not only VRA or other management authorities or multinational companies can do it. We have to depend on the international market. And now what we are doing is we trying to find any solutions that we can proactively manage the operations and the productions of our rubber industry. For example, we encourage high value variety or introduce new technologies to improve the capacities and productivities. And as you know that the average productivity is 1.7 to 1.8 per smallholder. And I think that is much higher compared to that of the other smallholder in foreign countries. So in the lower price seasons, the smallholder that have high productivity, I think is a very good way to go through to resist these fluctuations. And another point that I would like to mention is that when we are watching and observing the way some of the country like Indonesia or Malaysia's went through the downtrend of the rubber price, it is very difficult for them to stabilize the rubber price, even though they have come up with many supported package stimulus, but it's like nothing to what's happening in the market. So overall, we just try to come up with any solution that you can be proactively manage your own operation, which is the diversify the product. And especially in the in the northern regions or in the central coast, from Quảng Bình, Quảng Trị, I see that the plantation area per smallholder is much smaller than that in Quảng Bình or in Huế, and therefore they need to diversify their products so that they can endure the price fluctuations area. And when we can diversify your income, and that is also the reason why many organizations encourage these ways of approach in different form. For example, polyculture, intercrop, or agroforestry model, which has been studied by many developing countries and developed countries around the world, is not only help us to mitigate the risk of price fluctuations, but it also plays or contribute to reducing the impact of climate change. And as you know, rubber is one of the rubber monoculture is somehow still have a negative impact on the environment. And one of the solutions so that we can both diversify the incomes and also diversify the biology, as well as to keep the rubber tree to maximum its natural functions, because the rubber trees is not as the short-term crop. So we need to make it into a forest tree with the agroforest combinations benefits. And I think that is the upcoming models that the international organizations will try to deep dive. And as well, here we can have some of the farmers, some of the organization who participating in this linkage. I think we first of all need to cooperate closely to develop this model, so we can help the farmers not only to ensure for sure price, the thing that we cannot stabilize, but we need to improve our capacities in terms of adoptions to the changing of the world. Thank you, Dr. Trần Thị Thúy Hoa, for your additional information relating to solutions so that smallholders can overcome the price fluctuation. And now I would like to welcome Mr. To Sung Phúc to sum up and to conclude our event today.
Thank you. So I will summarize some main point of our seminar today. Also, the contribution from a delegate. I have two main points. The first is the current situation of rubber supply chain, and the second is the rubber industry in the near future. So first about the current situation of rubber industry. The Viet Nam rubber industry, we must have compliant the standard of export market, which means that we have variety of standard and a variety of quality dependent on different countries that we export to. The second is the export market for the three main products is expanding. Like Mr. said on the opening remark, the export turnover of rubber industry reached $8 billion per year. So we can see a bright future for the export turnover of rubber industry. And about the supply chain, focus on processing is enterprise, especially public enterprise. And the second is smallholder. So the income of the smallholder dependent highly on the rubber industry. And we have a questions here. Is whether the rubber industry is developing sustainably or not? And how about the benefit for the stakeholder, for the smallholder? Is it sustainable or not? So we can see that there are some factors that unsustainable. The smallholder can't get access to the information. They cannot have enough information about rubber industry. is still too complicated so that the smallholder can take part in. So the factor can prevent this rubber industry from sustainable way. Especially the benefit for the smallholder is not high enough. So we have the potential to enhance the advantage of the rubber industry and bring the value, the economic value for the smallholder. And second, how about the way forward? How we developed in the near future? I have a quote here. Sustainable is our future trend. However, not all our smallholder or not all the Vietnamese enterprise can reach this sustainable standard in the near future. If we want these enterprise, these smallholder with different knowledge, with different experience, there are variety of way for them to go. But sustainable is an essential way to go. There are positive to achieve the sustainable factor in the near future. First, it must be legal. First, we have to ensure the traceability of the supply chain. Currently, we have not collect enough information. And about the linkage between the smallholder and enterprise, why we have to link that? We have 51% of rubber products from smallholder. They who cannot link directly through the market, they have to go through the middleman, like the processor. So we have to make this connection simple, so that we can bring more benefit, more economic benefit for the smallholder, to help them to access to the technical information, to market information, price information. We can link the smallholder to sustainable rubber industry. But currently, they bring the huge benefit for the smallholder first, and after that, we go to the sustainable way. So how we can achieve this target? First, the role of the government. As Mr. Nghĩa said before, the government have to support the enterprise have to support the smallholder to take part in this connection. It's hard for the smallholder to get this certificate. Almost the smallholder in Vietnam is might not ready to get the certificate. So the enterprise must be the pioneer together with the government. And other stakeholders like VRA and RIV are also important. So we have to call for action from these organizations to join hands to have smallholder in the long way.
So in today's event, we have many international buyers and purchasers who is willing to buy Vietnamese price, which is much higher than if it had the certificate. Mr. Hip from the BFA also emphasized the importance of the rubber wood. And I think that if the wood industry that have the FSC's rubber wood products, I think they're willing to buy these products. And I think the cooperations between stakeholder and also to balance the economic and environmental benefits for the industry as well, put the smallholder at the center of the industry is very important. So we are now just in the initial development stage, that moving forward to the sustainability. Therefore, we need to have a further plan and step. So if we can join hands and moving toward sustainable rubber industry with more than 265,000, I think it will be a very great plan for the future developments. And I want to, I may leave out some important informations due to time restrictions. So that is all of my part that I want to share with us today.
Ladies and gentlemen, our ceremony today is come to an end. I'd like to express our thankfulness to all the delegates. We have prepared a lunch. Please stay here for enjoy the lunch. Thank you.